not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on Adbn TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. Adbn, a part of you. Adbn, a part of you.
Pleasant morning to you and welcome to ADBN News Bulletin. I am Cynthia Okosa. Now the news in details. The Edo State Independent Electoral Commission, ETIC, has declared the All Progressives Congress, APC, winner of all 18 local government chairmanship seats and the 192 ward councillorship seats in Saturday's local government elections. Announcing the results in Benin City, ETSEC Chairman Jonathan Ifoboka said the elections were conducted across all 18 local government areas and 192 wards in line with the Edo State Local Government Electoral Law. He described the exercise as largely peaceful despite minor operational challenges and commended electoral officials for their professionalism. Ifoboka also announced that certificates of return will be presented to the elected chairman and councillors today. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has extended the deadline for political parties to submit the names and credentials of candidates for the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections. Political parties now have until midnight on Tuesday, July 14th, to complete the exercise after the electoral body approved requests for more time. INEC said the decision followed appeals from political parties facing challenges with the submission process. National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Mohammed Haruna, said the request was conveyed through the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. A faction of the People's Democratic Party led by FCT Minister Nyesom Wike says it has successfully uploaded the names of its presidential candidate, running mate, and National Assembly candidates to the INEC candidate nomination portal ahead of the 2027 general election. The party's national chairman, Abdulrahman Mohammed, announced this in a statement on Sunday, saying the move shows the party's readiness to take part fully in the polls. The party also confirmed that the INEC candidate nomination portal shows 410 candidate forms registered on the PDP dashboard, with 367 successfully submitted and 42 still pending. Mohammed said the party is now awaiting the upload of its governorship and state houses of assembly candidates, while congratulating members on the latest milestone in the nomination process. Also, the All Progressives Congress says it has met INEC's deadline for the submission of its presidential and National Assembly candidates for the 2027 general elections. In a statement, the party said it completed the upload of the particulars of its presidential, vice presidential, Senate, and House of Representatives candidates before the July 11 deadline, noting that INEC later extended the closing date to July 14th following requests from some opposition parties. The APC said the extension highlights the opposition's inability to effectively manage its nomination process, arguing that parties unable to conclude their internal affairs cannot inspire public confidence in governance. The ruling party said its timely submission reflects discipline and organizational capacity, while urging its members to intensify grassroots mobilization and promote President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda ahead of the 2027 elections. A Labour Party chieftain has appealed to the party's 2023 presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, to resolve the recent controversy surrounding an alleged traffic violation at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, by offering an apology to airport officials if necessary and complying with the applicable regulations. He said such a step would demonstrate respect for the rule of law and reinforce public confidence in leadership. The appeal was made at a press briefing in Abuja by the National Vice Chairman South of the Labour Party, Dr. Arabambi Abayomi, who urged Mr. Obi to embrace dialogue and due process over public exchanges, as he also called on Nigerians to allow relevant authorities to establish the facts surrounding the incident. Dr. Abayomi maintained that leaders should lead by example by complying with established procedures, irrespective of their status or political affiliation, and further encouraged all parties involved to exercise restraint, avoid inflammatory remarks, and allow the matter to be addressed in line with the law and institutional processes.
I therefore, with all sense of responsibility, called on relevant security agencies, the Nigerian Police Force and the Department of State Service to invite Mr. Peter Obi for questioning. This is not a call for prosecution. It is a call for due process. Let the file be properly examined. Let the appropriate legal steps be taken if any breach of the law is established. Mr. Peter Obi has been given a window by the minister to publicly apologize to the airport staff and pay fine. That's a reasonable and mature demand. I urge him to take that step in the spirit of responsibility that legislative demand. It will be a gesture of humility and a recognition that no one is above the law.
He expressed optimism that an amicable resolution will help strengthen public trust in the country's institutions, urging Mr. Obi to take what he described as the right and responsible step in the interest of national unity, accountability, and respect for due process. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has urged parliamentary correspondents to promote national unity through responsible, balanced, and accurate reporting. He made the call at the inauguration of the newly elected executives of the House of Representatives Press Corps in Abuja, where he stressed the need for professionalism in strengthening democracy and fostering national cohesion. The House leadership also reaffirmed its commitment to transparency and constructive engagement with the media, describing the parliamentary press as a vital link between the legislature and the public.
What you write unites, which means that the power of what you hold in your hand can also divide. So can we choose the first one and continue in that trajectory, writing for the unification, consolidation of Nigeria, writing for national cohesion of Nigeria, writing for national loyalty of Nigeria, writing to inspire patriotism, love for one's own country.
In this new term, I encourage you to continue to uphold the highest standards of journalism, accuracy, fairness, professionalism, and responsibility. A strong legislature and a vibrant, credible press are mutually reinforcing pillars of any healthy.
The newly elected executives pledged to strengthen collaboration with the House leadership while upholding the highest standards of ethical journalism.
In the last 2 years, the Corps under this leadership has worked harmoniously with the House leadership. We have built bridges, opened channels of communication, and ensured that the work of the 10th Assembly is reported accurately and responsibly. And we did this without sacrificing the integrity and ethics of journalism profession. That balance will remain.
Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, has condemned the killing of scores of people in Akpache village and the Otukpo Nobi community in Otukpo local government area by suspected armed herdsmen. The governor described the attack as barbaric, inhuman, and a direct threat to the peace and stability of Benue State, saying it was aimed at undermining the governor's effort to restore lasting peace. Governor Alia directed security agencies to intensify surveillance, strengthen border patrols, hunt down the perpetrators, and ensure their arrest and prosecution, while also deploying additional personnel to protect vulnerable communities. He urged residents to remain vigilant and support security operatives with timely information, as he expressed sympathy to the bereaved families, wished the injured a speedy recovery, and reaffirmed his administration's commitment to protecting lives and property. Meanwhile, aggrieved protesters on Sunday stormed the palace of the Ochdoma, His Royal Majesty Agabaidu Elegu John Odogbo, carrying the bodies of victims killed in fresh attacks by suspected herdsmen in Benue State. 10 people were reportedly killed in separate attacks on 2 communities in Otukpo local government area. The protesters demanded urgent intervention from the Benue State government, the federal government, and security agencies to end the recurring violence in Benue South. Northern youths have called for greater inclusion in governance and intensified efforts to tackle insecurity across the region. The call was made at the National Youth Council of Nigeria, NYCN, Northern Stakeholders Forum in Kaduna, where representatives from the 19th Northern State and the Federal Capital Territory met to discuss youth development, national unity, and security. In a communique, the stakeholders commended the federal government's economic reforms and recent security gains, but urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to strengthen efforts against banditry, kidnapping, and other criminal activities. They also called for greater inclusion of northern youths in political appointments and national decision-making.
The forum commends the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for its bold economic reforms aimed at repositioning Nigerian economy. Members also acknowledge the federal government efforts in addressing insecurity across the country, particularly the recent successful rescue and the release of the abducted children, school children, and teachers in Oyo State. While appreciating these efforts, the forum urged the President to intensify security operations to decisively address the persistent security challenges confronting northern Nigeria and other parts.
The forum resolved to convene a Northern Security Summit to bring together government officials, security agencies, traditional and religious leaders, development partners, and youth groups to develop practical solutions to the region's security challenges.
Recognizing the increasing security challenges confronting the northern Nigeria, the forum resolved to convene a national Northern Security Summit aimed at bringing together government agencies, security institutions, traditional and religious leaders, development partners, youth organizations, and other critical stakeholders to develop practical, youth-driven strategies for addressing insecurity and promoting sustenance of peace across the region. To facilitate this initiative, the forum planned to constitute a committee to develop a framework, modalities, and implementation plan for the proposed Northern Security Youth Summit.
The stakeholders reaffirmed their commitment to youth empowerment, national unity, and sustainable development, pledging continued support for initiatives that promote peace and security across northern Nigeria. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has arrested a South African woman at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, for allegedly attempting to smuggle 5.75 kilograms of heroin hidden in her luggage while traveling with her 3-year-old son. According to a statement signed by the agency's Director of Media and Advocacy, Mr. Femi Babafemi, NDLEA also arrested a commercial motorcycle rider at the Murtala Muhammed International Airport, Lagos, after recovering 100 wraps of methamphetamine from his luggage and thorough excretion observation. The statement added that operatives also recovered 4.1 tons of Canadian loud, a strain of cannabis worth over 10.3 billion naira, during a joint examination of a container at the Apapa Seaport in Lagos, while an attempt to export skunk hidden in a gas compressor to Cyprus was foiled. NDLEA Chairman Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired, commended the officers involved in the operations and urged them to sustain the momentum in drug supply reduction and the agency's war against drug abuse campaign across the country. The Nasarawa State Police Command has arrested a 30-year-old man, Musbau Amodu, for allegedly beating his 20-year-old wife to death in Angwanya Haya, Anyagru, Obi local government area. Police say the incident was reported on Sunday. Officers rushed the victim to the Federal University Teaching Hospital, Lafayette, where she was confirmed dead, and the suspect was arrested. The command says the suspect confessed to assaulting his wife after an argument over food. Nasarawa State Commissioner of Police Shetima Mohammed has ordered the transfer of the case to the state CID for investigation and prosecution. on illegal mining, the federal government has stepped up its crackdown on illegal mining with the arrest of 2 suspected illegal miners during a joint enforcement operation at Ileki-Jesha along the Ile-Ife-Ilesha Road in Osun State. The suspects, identified as Danladi Isa and Musa Kabiru, were arrested after a joint team from the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals Development and security agencies raided the illegal mining site. Several other suspects fled while mining equipment, motorcycles, generators, and other tools were recovered. The site has since been sealed. Leading the operation, Southwest Zonal Mines Officer Ajibade Ganiu said the exercise is part of ongoing efforts to enforce the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act, protect the environment, and eliminate illegal mining across the country. Solid Minerals Development Minister Dele Alake said the Tinubu administration remains committed to sanitizing the mining sector through stronger enforcement. He disclosed that more than 300 illegal miners have been arrested and over 150 suspects prosecuted nationwide, urging communities to support the government with credible information to help dismantle illegal mining networks. 6 months after more than 170 worshippers were abducted from 3 churches in Kamin Wali community, Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State, the Northern Christian Association, in partnership with Fountain of Life Church, Lagos, has donated a borehole to provide residents with clean water. The association says the intervention is part of efforts to support the community's recovery and restore hope to families affected by the attack. Chairman of the association, Reverend Joseph John Hyab, said the project was prompted by the urgent need for potable water during an earlier visit to the community. Reverend Hyab also urged the Kaduna State government to fulfill its promises of providing critical infrastructure and other support to the area. The village head, Ishaku Danazumi, thanked the donors but appealed for a health center, better roads, and a security base in the community. Leading cancer experts, researchers, and healthcare professionals from across Africa have gathered in Abuja for the Best of ASCO Africa 2026 conference, a high-level forum aimed at strengthening cancer care and improving patient outcomes across the continent. Held under the theme, From Global Discovery to Local Delivery, Driving Africa to the Cutting Edge of Cancer Care, the conference is organized in collaboration with the African Organization for Research and Training in Cancer. The meeting seeks to bring global breakthroughs in cancer research, advanced therapies, and medical innovations into everyday clinical practice in Africa, particularly in low-resource settings. Speaking at the event, Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment, Professor Usman Malami, joined other leading health experts in calling for stronger partnerships, greater investment in cancer research, and improved access to modern diagnostic and treatment services across Africa.
The federal government held the scourge and menace of cancer in the country, and the one being that the introduction of what we call the Catastrophic Health Fund, and which is domiciled in the National Health Insurance Agency. The Catastrophic Fund is hoped to subsidize the cost of care, right from the diagnosis, even prevention, right from prevention, diagnosis, treatment.
Many of these therapies are also very expensive. And in the U.S. we struggle with how can we possibly pay for it, much less in the African context. So that's been a lot of the discussion, is what can we translate, how can we implement strategies to get these drugs available to everyone, everywhere, not just those who have private insurance. How do we get them incorporated into the public health insurance schemes throughout the world?
Speakers at the conference said Africa must accelerate the adoption of evidence-based cancer care to ensure patients benefit from the latest global medical advancements.
So on a global space, right, we see that there's a global cancer divide. You know, I practice in the United States, and I've had the opportunity to practice in some institutions and some centers in Nigeria. And what I've seen firsthand is that the therapies and the technologies that is accessible to us, me being an oncologist in the United States, is way different than what is accessible in Nigeria, for example. So this is the reason why we have this initiative, for us to talk about the new innovative technologies and therapies and start thinking about how do we close the divide, how do we bring it to our continent. And one of the goal of this conference or this initiative is to start thinking about how do we assess this as a Pan-African initiative.
Now in 2012 we all made a commitment through the African Union about where we said 1% of our GDP would be dedicated towards research and development. I think from a grassroots level what we can do as a civil society is really to motivate and advocate for that funding to actually be used to, one, do contextual research.
One of the achievements and accomplishments of Nigeria this year is that we have 3 immunotherapy studies in the country for the first time ever. That means for the first time ever, big name drugs like nivolumab, Keytruda are available in country where we never had them before. So that means that you wouldn't have to go abroad to get these drugs, and they're life-saving drugs. So that's significant, and the better part is at no cost to Nigerians. And if we can access those drugs, we can save lives. So that alone is significant. And part of how we got there is through research.
The conference is expected to foster knowledge sharing, promote collaboration among African cancer specialists, and identify practical strategies for improving cancer prevention, early detection, treatment, and overall patient care across the continent. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has donated ambulances and critical healthcare equipment to the Gambia to strengthen the country's health system and improve emergency response. The intervention, implemented by the West African Health Organization WAHO, with support from the African Development Bank, is part of a regional initiative to boost preparedness for future public health emergencies following lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic. The report.
10 modern ambulances, laboratory equipment, oxygen concentrators, ventilators, X-ray machines, hemodialysis machines, and other biomedical tools were formally handed over to the Gambian government during a high-level ceremony attended by regional leaders, development partners, and health officials. Speaking at the event, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Aliyu Toure, said COVID-19 pandemic exposed weaknesses in health systems across the region, but also strengthened the resolve of member states to work together.
Between 2024 and 2025, 852 health workers and stakeholders were trained in integrated disease surveillance and response, incident management systems, infection prevention and control, and other critical areas. This reflects the commitment of the Gambian government and its people to building a resilient health system for future generations.
Representing President Adama Barrow, Gambian Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow described the initiative as a major intervention in the country's healthcare system.
This is a direct response to a critical need. Rural and remote communities continue to transport ill family members to health facilities. These ambulances will now be deployed in communities to serve as vessels of hope. These items will strengthen our ability to respond to emergencies, ranging from road traffic accidents to obstetric complications and infectious disease outbreaks.
WOW's Director General, Dr. Melchor Assis, said post-pandemic assessments revealed significant gaps in healthcare preparedness across the region. He also announced plans to support the Gambia in establishing an emergency medical service to improve emergency response and patient care nationwide.
Mbala a répondu pour 3 pays. Il s'agit du Mali, du Niger et de la Gambie. Nous avons fait les mêmes choses au niveau des autres pays. Le Niger et le Mali également, même qu'ils soient sortis, on a fait les mêmes choses là-bas. Je voudrais juste profiter pour remercier Monsieur le ministre de la Santé ici parce que nous avons d'énormes difficultés à adresser les modèles que vous voyez qui sont des ambulances de type 3, qui sont en fait des hôpitaux mobiles. C'est des systèmes de réanimation mobiles.
This handover today is seen as a direct response by ECOWAS through WOW to address pressing health challenges across the West African region. While excitement and hopes are high today on the usage of these equipment, however, it remains to be seen how effectively these ambulances and the rest of the equipment would help combat emerging health challenges and threats across the West African region. Ama Marcus reporting from Banjul, the Gambia.
As health authorities intensify surveillance against Ebola and other infectious diseases, the Akwa Ibom State Ministry of Health says it is on high alert to detect and respond swiftly to any suspected outbreak. ADBN TV's Mfon Akpan visited the ministry's Emergency Operations Center, where emergency calls are received, response teams coordinated, and ambulances dispatched.
On an ordinary day, it appears calm. Phones ring occasionally, officers monitor reports, and emergency teams remain on standby. But behind this quiet routine is a system designed to respond the moment an infectious disease threat is detected. The State Emergency Operations Center serves as the coordination hub for public health emergencies. To understand how Akwa Ibom is preparing against Ebola, we joined the state epidemiologist, Dr. Nchiek Edetime, as she walked us through the state's response strategy.
Capacity building for the healthcare workers, then also some of them, the frontline healthcare workers. Then also at the entry points, like the airports, we have put certain things in place. For example, temperature check. Also, we also have what we call lists from NCDC sent to us for, we call them passengers of interest. So these passengers that are coming from, other countries. And now the spotlight is on Uganda and those countries that actually have Ebola. So what we do is that when we get the lists and their phone numbers, and for the time they stay in the state, we get their phone numbers, call them, monitor their temperature, and also make sure that they don't go to crowded areas.
Following a strategic review by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, Akwa Ibom State has been prioritized for enhanced Ebola surveillance and additional response support.
Akwa Ibom State has been placed on red alert. It's one of those states that have, international, airports. Also, those states even have seaports, and also porous borders.
Beyond planning, every emergency call sets a coordinated response in motion. Even after an ambulance leaves the station, the operations center continues to monitor the response until the patient arrives safely at the hospital. We also followed the response team inside one of the emergency ambulances to see how care begins long before a patient reaches the hospital.
So we get a call from the call center that there is an emergency. Because we are set for all emergencies, we've done all the preparedness that is needed. So all we need to is to jump into the ambulance, turn on all the machines, turn on the inverter, get the machine, set up the oxygen depending on the case. For example, if it's a cholera outbreak, we ensure that our flutes are ready.
Health authorities say there is no cause for alarm, but they encourage residents to report any unusual illness promptly. Mfon Akpan, ADBN News.
You're watching ADBN News at 7. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. You're welcome back from that break. Nigeria and the Republic of Benin have reaffirmed their commitment to stronger bilateral ties as Nigeria's new ambassador to Benin. Mopelola Adeola Ibrahim presented her letters of credence to Beninese President Romuald Wadengni in Cotonou. The ceremony officially marks the start of the ambassador's diplomatic mission. Both leaders discussed measures to strengthen cooperation, including the next session of the Nigerian-Benin Joint National Commission, increased private sector investment, energy collaboration, and enhanced intelligence sharing to tackle cross-border crime. The renewed engagement is expected to deepen trade, improve regional security, and support ECOWAS's goal of greater economic integration and cooperation across West Africa. In education, the federal government has approved a uniform registration fee of 50,000 naira for the WAEC and NECO Senior Secondary School Certificate examinations from 2027. The new rate replaces WAEC's 27,000 and NECO's 30,000 naira charges. The approval was contained in a June 18, 2026 memo signed by the Director of Senior Secondary Education, Adbn Ibrahim, on behalf of the Minister of Education. The minister said the decision followed a March 31st meeting with examination bodies where a uniform fee was agreed. The hike is expected to place more pressure on parents and state governments that sponsor candidates. Now from aviation, the federal government has concluded its strategic engagement with leading aircraft manufacturer Bombardier as part of efforts to strengthen Nigeria's aviation sector. Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo led a delegation of Nigerian airline operators to Bombardier's Lawrence Boudoin Completion Center in Montreal, Canada, completing the government's engagement with major aircraft manufacturers after earlier visits to Boeing, Airbus, and Embraer. The initiative is aimed at supporting fleet renewal, improving access to aircraft financing, expanding technical cooperation, and strengthening maintenance capacity. Keyamo reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to creating an enabling environment for indigenous airline operators. Still ahead, now onto the foreign scene. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has begun its 39th Administration and Finance Committee meeting in Freetown, Sierra Leone, where delegates reviewing the bloc's financial management, administrative performance, and institutional effectiveness. Opening the three-day meeting, ECOWAS Vice President Damtien Chinchubaja said the organization's Golden Jubilee provides and opportunity to reflect on its achievements, address emerging challenges, and strengthen regional integration. The committee will assess budget implementation, human resources, and financial oversight. Chairman of the committee, Komba Momo of Sierra Leone, reaffirmed his country's commitment to regional cooperation, expressing confidence that the meeting's outcomes will strengthen ECOWAS's capacity to deliver on its mandate across West Africa. Going into Thailand, Thailand officials said at least 27 people have been killed and 22 others are in critical condition after a fire broke out at a popular pub in Bangkok. The blaze reportedly started around midnight on Sunday in the Chachuak district, filling the venue with smoke and trapping many patrons inside. Survival accounts say people ran toward the back of the building near the bathrooms, but there were no fire escapes. Authorities say 63 other injured persons have been hospitalized as emergency officials continue rescue and investigation efforts. Now into sports. South African Premier Soccer League club Chippa United have announced the return of Stanley Nwabali 5 months after the Super Eagles goalkeeper left the club. The announcement was made on the club's official X account, with Chippa United welcoming back Nwabali after what they described as time away from the game. Nwabali, who was Nigeria's first-choice goalkeeper before his departure in February, had submitted a transfer request before mutually agreeing to terminate his contract amid reports linking him with a move elsewhere. The 30-year-old has been without a club since leaving Chippa United following a difficult personal period in which he lost both of his parents within the space of 6 weeks. Jannik Sinner successfully defended his Wimbledon men's singles title with a 4-set victory over Alexander Zverev on center court. The world #1 recovered from losing the opening set to defeat the French Open champion 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, 6-4 and claim his 5th Grand Slam title. The victory extended Sinner's winning streak against Zverev to 10 matches and marked his 100th career Grand Slam match win. The Italian also became only the 10th man in the professional era to successfully defend the Wimbledon men's singles title, further cementing his status as one of the leading players of his generation. That's it on ADBN TV News. Remember to watch us live on DSTV channel 258, on StarTime channel 140, Avo TV app, Limex World TV app, and Niger TV app. For more stories, visit our website at www.adbntv.com. You can also watch us live from every part of the world by logging on to www.adbntv.com/live. I remain Cynthia Okosa. Thank you for watching.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN, a part of you.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on ADBN TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on ADBN TV for business information, latest happening business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on ADBN TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report bringing you up to speed in the business world.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
In a country of more than 200 million people, proving identity remains a challenge for millions, particularly in underserved communities. Strengthening the systems that verify identity is now seen as a key step towards improving access to government services and driving Nigeria's digital transformation. That ambition brought together the National Identity Management Commission and the Nigerian Postal Service in Abuja, where both agencies formalized a new partnership designed to strengthen Nigeria's identity ecosystem.
The postcode system, when completed, adopted and utilized, provides the framework for addressing location intelligence, logistics, planning, emergency response, and citizen access to services. Individually, these systems are important, but together, they become transformational.
It is a demonstration of our shared commitment to building an integrated national ecosystem, where identity and location work together to improve governance, service delivery, economic participation, and improve the everyday lives of Nigerians.
The NIPOS NIMC collaboration complements the ongoing partnership, NPC, geared towards rolling out a system to assign a unique, machine-readable digital address to every addressable building in Nigeria. The Commission's engagement also extended to the Federal Ministry of Justice, where discussions focused on the implementation of NIMC Act and the Ministry's role in strengthening the legal framework.
This supports extradition proceedings, international criminal justice cooperation with the Interpol and UNODC, and recovery of stolen assets through authenticated identification verification.
It's important that we key into it, especially because of the benefits in, advancing the anti-corruption drive of Mr. President. You have to go around. You also have to sensitize members of the public, to know what this act promises and to allay the fears of those who are averse or who are afraid that something will happen. Of course, something will happen. If the law comes into existence, and it has come into existence, let everybody know.
Ultimately, the success of Nigeria's digital economy will depend on the strength, security, and trustworthiness of the identity system that underpins it. Jesse Morris.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
From the early hours of the day, voters queued patiently across polling units, eager to decide those who will lead their local councils for the next term. At Udomi Primary School in Asan Central Local Government Area, Governor Manduk Bewulu joined other voters to cast his ballot at about 10:40 a.m., describing the turnout as a strong reflection of grassroots democracy. He urged residents to remain peaceful and allow the electoral process to run its course.
The election is going on peacefully and the turnout is very high. You can see what is happening here now too. This is demonstration of grassroots politics, and by the grace of God, so a winner must emerge today.
Election observers monitoring the exercise across Udomi, Igweben, Ile, Egwari, and other parts of the state reported a calm atmosphere, while voters say they exercised their civic rights without intimidation, attributing the peaceful process to improved security and public confidence.
Ready to appreciate the governor of Edo State, Senator Modu Bebo. They are most ready to appreciate him for what they're doing for the people of Ward 10. You can see to yourself that the turn up today, my opinion today, I will want the governor, my governor, the 2.5 million he promised the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it will increase it. Because what I'm seeing today is very, very, very more interesting.
The election is well prepared for and it's well contested. The election is going on smoothly. As you can see, the accreditation is being done peacefully and the voting is going on simultaneously with the accreditation. Every arrangement prior to this election is well made and no cause of alarm.
We just voted. There's no fight, nothing. We are all brothers and sisters here, so we don't have problem here. There's no problem. They came here before 8, thereabouts, yes.
With security personnel maintaining order and observers reporting a peaceful process, the early conduct of the Edo local government election reflected growing confidence in grassroots democracy.
Well, you can see the atmosphere is filled up of people that are very excited to come and cast their votes. Accreditation started very well and vote has been ongoing and it's still going very well right now as we speak. You can see the mammoth crowd here. This is as a result of what His Excellency, the Executive Governor, has demonstrated in Edo since assumption in office as Governor of Edo State.
Stakeholders now hope the calm atmosphere will be sustained through the conclusion of voting and the official declaration of results. In Edo State, Favor Osazua.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on Adbn TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on Adbn TV for business information, latest happening business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on Adbn TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report bringing you up to speed in the business world.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope, Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on ADBN TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
Hello there, good morning, and thanks for choosing to start your day on ADBN Television's flagship program, Morning Express. A lot of Nigerians have a sense of renewed hope, following quite the historic release of 44 abducted pupils and teachers having spent 56 days in the abductor's den. But at the cost of a soldier, 28-year-old Lieutenant Felix Adame Isaac, paying the supreme price when his convoy, which led the initial breach of the Old Oyo Park, was struck by a propellant from the kidnapper's den. A much commendation is coming to the government of the day for leading the rescue and swift release of the abducted teachers and pupils. And it's on that note that we say welcome to the program this morning. My name is Beto O'Brien. I'm not alone in the studio. I'm in the company of my colleague, Chijoke Okafor. Hello, Chijoke. Good morning.
Well, hello, Beto. Good morning. It's good to see you. It's the start of a fresh week, and I believe we're starting off with good news regarding the rescue of the Orire abductees. And sadly, we commiserate with the family of the late lieutenant that had lost his life during the rescue mission. Well, with that, we start off with the headline stories this morning, but our usual disclaimer, remember that we read these stories out as published under the editorial guidelines of the newspaper houses, and they do not represent us or our position here at ADBN TV. You're more than welcome to lend in your thoughts across our social media platforms. Join the conversation, but be civil in doing so. That record being set straight, let's pick up the first paper of the lineup, which will come right after this break.
Picking up the first paper on the lineup this morning, which happens to be the Daily Sun newspaper, you'd find the headline as it reads. Orire school children. Security sources reveal how abductors' wives' kids' arrest paved way for rescue. How joint forces made them waste ammunition before final onslaughts. Above that lead headline, you'd find Debt Management Office, DMO, FG borrowed 7.6 trillion naira via T-bills, bonds in 6 months. Whilst besides the masthead, Atiku slams FG over increase in WAEC, NECO fees, says government making education more expensive for Nigerians. Now on the lead, beneath the picture of prominence, on the front page of the Daily Sun, you'd find a few more headlines on the rider. ICPC to arraign ex-minister Naji today. PFIPC DG Adeni tomorrow. Rescue other Nigerians in captivity in Borno, Katsina, others. Khan tells FG. Why I want to engage OB in debate by the Minister of Works, Engineer Dave Umwahi. First floating NLNG project. UTME offshore target September final investments decision. Those are the headline stories on the Daily Sun.
Well, moving on to the Vanguard newspaper, headline story reads, starting over the catchphrase in red, Orire abduction, how arrest of kidnappers' family members led to rescue of victims. Our children may not return to schools, Orire parents declare. And this story is continued on news pages 6 and 10 of the Vanguard newspaper. Other feature stories on the front page, banks/lending, caught 5.4 trillion naira across key sectors. Oil cartels, tanker operators, enforcement agencies blamed for Apapa Kirikiri gridlock. And a picture of prominence here captures President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a handshake with Vice President Kashim Shettima and High Chief Government Tom Polo congratulated Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Vice President as the flag bearers of the APC going into the 2027 elections and with the kickoff of the PBAT door-to-door movement 2027. These are the stories on the Vanguard.
Moving away from the Vanguard newspaper this morning, the Nigerian Tribune is up next. On the Tribune this morning, the lead headline reads, Untold Story of Orire Rescue Operation, how General Rabe's death influenced tactical change by security agencies, arrest of their wives, forced terrorists to relax hard stance, stopped use of abductees as human shield. Whilst above the masthead, suspected headers kill 16 in Benue, family of 9, 2-month-old baby killed in another Plateau attack. Iran closes Strait of Hormuz as hostilities escalate with US. Experts warn on multiplicity of security agencies at Nigerian airports. Whilst on the rider, APC kicks as INEC extends deadline for presidential NAS nomination lists. Accuses commission of succumbing to undue pressure. Why we moved candidates' nomination till tomorrow, INEC explains. The sidebar is a health study that suggests new nose spray, DNA vaccines to change way tuberculosis is treated. Above which you'd find reps, opposition lawmakers demand extension of ongoing voters' registration. Fake PFIPC DG Adbn to be arraigned Tuesday. Those are the headline stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Well, moving away from the Nigerian Tribune, our next two stops will be the First News and the Punch newspaper, as we hear that protests have erupted in Benue State over the killing of 16 persons. Let's pick up the First newspaper to get the first news on this. On the first daily this morning, Benue bleeds again, 16 killed as residents storm streets in protest. I'll take that again. Benue bleeds again, 16 killed as residents storm streets in protest. Bandit kingpin Sani Yellow killed in Zamfara shootout. Army seizes truckload of illicit drugs in Lagos, arrests driver. And troops foil ISWAP attack, kills scores in Borno State. You'll find picture of prominence capturing Professor Wole Alamu, husband of the recently rescued principal of Community High School Orire, Mrs. Rachel Alamu, during a Thanksgiving service held by the family at First Baptist Church on Bomosho, Oyo State on Sunday, July 12th. And right above the headline story and beside the masthead, Oyo Rescue, Khan demands crackdown on kidnappers. INEC extends deadline for 2027 presidential National Assembly candidate submission. Ahead of 2027, Wiki-led PDP faction uploads candidates to INEC portal. Atiku blasts Tinubu as WAEC NECO fees hike. And lastly, Serap sues INEC over alleged APC 800 billion naira FAC diversion. These are the stories on the First Daily.
Well, in speeding things up on the program this morning, we'll go through a number of more newspaper headlines before we have our diplomatic correspondents join us on the program as we look to debrief her following a return from the Gambia. On our next newspaper, greeting the lineup this morning, mixed reactions trail the hike in WAEC fees. You'd find on the Nigerian News Direct this morning, beg your pardon, before the Nigerian News Direct, we have the Punch to go through. Troops kill 274 insurgents as Nigeria records 882 attacks. Troops kill 274 insurgents as Nigeria records 882 attacks. Borno tops violence chart with 172 fatalities. Zamfara Plateau follow. U.S. Buddy report says insurgents targeted AIDS workers, cargo trucks, and schools. Report identifies Borno's Mongono axis as Nigeria's critical humanitarian flashpoint. Besides the masthead, 2027 presidency, APC Muslim ticket sparks fresh debates. Recovered ISWAP footage reveals Palestinian trainer, Moroccan doctor, army. Rescued or your pupils may meet families today. Foreign debt servicing months. And now beneath the picture of prominence where you find the caption, commuter stranded as flood wreaks havoc on Lagos-Ogun roads. You'd find a cross-section of the road submerged in flood waters with motorcycles and tricycles stranded in the mix. Fake agency scandal, police to arraign controversial DG Tuesday. NDLEA arrests South African woman over 5.78 kilograms cannabis haul. Only 217,784 meters installed on the $500 million power project, according to a special report. I'll take that again. Only 217,784 meters installed under $500 million power project, according to a report. And those are the headline stories on the Punch this morning.
Well, let's move on to yet another paper this morning from the Punch newspaper. We'll move to the Nigerian News Direct before we welcome our diplomatic correspondent for the debriefing. On the Nigerian News Direct, headline so reads, Federal government approves hike of WAEC NECO fees to 50,000 naira. As Atiku warns, hike will prize millions of out-of-school children. Now, this story is captured on news page 2 of the Niger News Direct. Let's start with stories above the masthead, and while we walk our way down to some rider stories. Right above the masthead, you'd find Edo local government polls. APC wins all 18 chairmanship, 192 councillorship seats. Zulum donates 200 million naira to support orthopedic hospital Azare expansion. Beneath all of these stories, you'd find some more feature stories on the Nigerian News Direct, which say NDPHC commences restoration of 225 megawatts Bahrain NIPP plant. NDLEA intercepts Okada rider with 100 wraps of meth, seizes 10.3 billion naira cannabis at Lagos port. Federal government breaks ground on 12 megawatt solar mini grids to electrify over 13,000 homes, businesses. And lastly, INEC extends deadline for submission of 2027 election candidate lists. These are the few stories splashed on the Nigerian News Direct.
Well, on that note, we'll be back to review some of the major headline stories on the newspapers. Much like you can see on the Daily Trust, it's a recurring headline with the federal government's exam fee hike raising dropout fears. And on the rider, beneath the caricature, you'd find a jostling over an agency, BCDA. As it reads, one agency, two heads, Wike's ally, remains in office despite Tinubu's directive. I will come back to the newspaper front pages in a bit, but at this point on the program, would look to welcome our diplomatic correspondent who was in Banjul in Senegal on the 6th of July and also visited the Gambia. This is as the ECOWAS Parliament heightened sensitization campaigns to combat irregular migration and human trafficking in the Gambia. It also featured a handover of medical equipment by the West African Health Organization, WAHU, to the Gambia in response to the COVID-19 post-pandemic outbreak. On the program this morning, joining us is ADBN's diplomatic correspondent, Ama Marcus. Hello, Ama. Good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Hello, Vito. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning. Hi, Chidoke.
Good morning, Ama. It's good to see you and it's good to have you back.
It's good to be here.
I don't need to ask you how the trip is. I'm beginning to see souvenirs exchanging hands. So indeed, it means the trip went well.
Yes,
so let's cut to the chase. You witnessed firsthand part of the handover. I think a good place to start would be with the response post the pandemic COVID-19 and the medical equipments that were handed to the Gambia. What's the state of affairs there and how are they bracing up for the medical challenges in view?
Okay, so you see, let me go back to pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed serious structural health challenges that West Africa is facing. Basically, the whole of Africa is facing. So COVID-19 brought that up, and it was very important for WAO, which is the health organization of ECOWAS, to put up sensitization and positions in place that would help combat these issues. Now, I would interest you to know that this was for 3 countries. It was for Gambia, Mali, and Niger. And they still continued their activities even when Mali and Niger had decided they would be leaving the ECOWAS bloc. But since there was no response, they decided to move on with the Gambia. So the delivery of health equipment to the Gambia is supposed to help boost the health preparedness and, of course, the efficiency of tracking disease surveillance in the West African region. So basically, one of the lessons that the West African region we have learned from COVID-19 is that we were not ready for that pandemic.
That's correct.
And moving forward, if you look at time through history, there have been a repetition of pandemics. So it's better for us to get ready and gird up our loins, and basically that's what ECOWAS was doing in the Gambia.
Now, beyond the Gambia, you had mentioned that the 3 Sahelian states that had pulled out of ECOWAS refused to accept, the intervention by WAHU, and, of course, due to the intricacies at the moment. When you talk about a pandemic of such nature like COVID-19, it has absolutely no regard whatsoever to political inclination. If it's happening in Niger, it could cross over to Nigeria. If it's happening in Mali, it could cross over to Niger and whatnot. How much has this affected activities, especially within the ECOWAS, if you look at it from the perspective of interventions of this nature?
It has definitely affected it, and this is one of the cases that has really shown how that has affected. So from what I understand, we got to speak with the WAO Director General, and we got to understand that there had been talks, progression of talks, but when relations deteriorated between these 3 nations, it kind of dropped.
ECOWAS.
Yes, and ECOWAS, it kind of dropped. Now, this is irresponsive of the issues that we're having. At the moment, there is an Ebola crisis in DR Congo and Uganda. These 2 countries, initially they put up borders so there will be no movement, but at some point you realize they have to come together and work together, which is what the Director General said, that, they're still finding ways to work with these countries, because even though diplomatically we're not engaging with each other, health knows no barriers and no boundaries, which is what they're trying to do with the Gambia. And at the moment, they're still engaging with these Sahelian countries, but the level of engagement is not as top tier as it was when they were ECOWAS member states.
Now, one thing that also stands out is the fact that the DG of WAHU, Melchior Assisi, said that none of the 15 countries within the ECOWAS was adequately prepared for COVID-19. It took the world by shock. Even Nigeria, there were no protective equipment for doctors as well. Even kits to test to confirm COVID-19 cases were not on ground. What does this inform for ECOWAS going forward in terms of preparations to health emergencies?
It informs, as we have seen in this event, that more additional preparedness should be given, more money should be put into our health system. At the moment, the current administration of ECOWAS, they would be ending their administration at the end of this month. So it's a call to action for the next administration to look at the health systems across West Africa. So it's not just a Nigerian thing, it's not a Gambian thing, it is the whole of the African continent, not only just West Africa. So it has, that whole pandemic showed gaps in our health system, and they're looking for ways to combat it. So I think it's important even though it's coming 6 years after the COVID-19 pandemic, but half a loaf is better than none, right?
Well, so, that's very correct. I mean, now let's also look at it from the perspective of, skeptics who might, allude to the fact that there's a certain fear-mongering campaign going on. And, with such interventions and campaigns happening, it's almost as if, is there something lurking in the corners that Africans, West Africans in particular, do not know? And while this intervention is good, while preparedness is good, owing to the fact that Africa had a very huge blow during the COVID-19 pandemic about 6 years ago, but is there anything lurking in the corners beyond Ebola, beyond other forms of, outbreaks that we have seen so far? Is there anything new we should be expecting?
At the moment, hopefully there would be no pandemic
It's just
preparedness.
a matter of preparedness.
Yes, it's just a matter of preparedness, so we don't get caught off guard.
Well, how does the ECOWAS handle the matter of fear, especially in people who do not really believe that this is coming out of nothing but preparedness?
That is where our job comes in as the media. So ECOWAS has done its job. It has explained that we're doing this in order to make sure that we take care of our people ahead of time. When you're in the Gambia, you see that there are lots of rural communities there. And first of all, away from, pandemic preparedness, it's really hard for people to access urgent medical care when they need. Mm-hmm. So we as the media, it's our job to say, hey, do not be afraid. The government is just doing their thing. Because if you're looking at it, the governments of any country and all these organizations are actually supposed to have these measures in place. We don't have to wait for COVID-19 to come. We don't have to wait for Ebola, a differentiation of Ebola to come before we realize we need this thing. So I think it's a nice proactive step by the by WAO, but I think more should be done in terms of health infrastructure for other West African countries. And it might interest you to know that this project was funded by the African Development Bank, and it was targeted for low-income ECOWAS states, which is why Gambia was chosen, which is why Mali was chosen, and also Niger. So it's the target specifically was for low-income states that basically cannot really support their health system. So we're trying to see how we can move, the level of preparedness across the region, so at least be on the same level. So no part of the West African region is lacking when it comes to health.
Now, you mentioned low-income states as being, the focal, the targets of the WAHU, program that we are currently seeing, which means Nigeria doesn't fall into that categorization. However, when there is a pandemic, like I said earlier, it cuts across board. Is there an intervention that the ECOWAS, of course, via the WAHU is planning, say, for Nigeria as a whole?
Well, at the moment, there is none, but there is a general health plan for the whole West African region. So you see, they deal with the whole region, not individual countries.
Not individual countries.
Yes, not individual countries. So it's more like, so we want to help the whole West African region. Where do we start from? Mm-hmm. So there's a level of preparedness that every country should have. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to see how everyone can be on the same level before we say, okay, let's upgrade that to a higher level of more preparedness in case of the next pandemic that hopefully will not come.
All right, in moving on to the next engagement, which Arma Marcos was, of course, a part of under the team Safe Choices Together Against Irregular Migration, which was the team for the ECOWAS's 6th Parliamentary Citizen Sensitization Engagement in the Gambia, which was targeted against curbing irregular migration. The local parlance there for it is backway migration, talking about trafficking in human, which the Gambia on record is the highest contributor per capita in the world to irregular migration. You were there firsthand, and can you further give us details on how the strategic parliamentary citizen sensitization campaign came about?
I would say first, it's a really sad reality in West Africa, because we got to understand when we spoke to some of the people who had been through the system that even Nigerians were being trafficked from Nigeria down to the Gambia in order to move to other West African countries. And when you look down to the root causes, unemployment, no education, insecurity. This is why people are looking for better opportunities. We had the opportunity to speak to one of the survivors, and she did mention that back home, even when she knew that, she shouldn't be taking this journey, it's perilous, it's unsafe, she had to, because there was nothing to come back home to. At the end, she still had to come back. But it also begs on, our government and our societies to do well to make sure that, the basic amenities are available, so people do not think of this as an option. So while we're there in the Gambia, we could see that there was a level of, a dejection and, unhappiness around the people, which is why people thought that this would be a good option to migrate. And there is always, the story, there is a recurring theme when you listen to all of them. There's always a promise of a job opportunity outside, a better pay, outside in all of these countries, which turns out not to be true. And unfortunately, these people are lured into human trafficking scams, drug peddling, and it's a really sad reality that it continues to occur across the West African region.
Time and time again. Now, the entire concept of human trafficking, especially in West Africa, you mentioned that Gambia has the highest number of people being trafficked. While the government works towards ensuring better means of livelihood for its citizens, better amenities, human capital development and whatnot, it's also important to look at it from the angle of prevention. How has the Gambian government been working towards ensuring that people don't get trafficked? It's one thing to work towards providing everything that they need, but you can't hold people back. Yeah. You can't stop them from, towing illegal parts in order to migrate to what they might call or what they perceive to be greener pastures. It's always greener on the other side. What modalities are in place to checkmate those and stop people from, in the first place, migrating illegally, which now breeds human trafficking?
So this is where partnership comes to play. And this is also where information dissemination is very, very important. Yeah. So we saw that the ECOWAS Parliament came in and they did this in partnership with the Gambian government. So in partnership with them, they're looking to sensitize the people, because you can tell people from today to tomorrow, don't go, but if someone really wants to go, the person would still go. Yeah,
exactly. That's my point. Sensitization alone is not just enough. It does have to work. But in terms of enforcement, is there anything going on?
I don't think there's anything going on, because you can't stop people. Migration is a human right, don't forget. You can't force people to move. But the illegal migration is where the challenge is. Yeah. If there's no law, there's no rule, there's no government that's going to stop you if you want to migrate or go anywhere. But the thing is, do it legally, follow the right path, get the right documentation, do the right process as you should. Now, because of the high unemployment rate, the poverty, the low education, the people just want an opportunity. So when they see the quickest next opportunity, they take it and they move. So that's the challenge, which it goes back to the structural changes that need to happen. Let's not forget that Gambia is relatively young. They had a military coup as recently as 2019.
Young and small as well.
Young and small country. So you could see the desperation in people. People want a better life. It's very normal for people to want a better life, to want better opportunities for themselves. So being from that kind of environment, you wouldn't really blame people if you hear, oh, there's a better job opportunity in, say, 100,000 kilometers away. It's just that you're going to suffer a bit. You say, what is suffer that I can't suffer? You'd want to do that, you get. Exactly. So these are some of the challenges that you look at the country's topography, their history, the things they are going through, yes. And it's only important that you tell them that, hey, it's not really better out there.
And it's not worth it.
Exactly, it's not worth it. You can stay and develop your own region, and you don't need to go out for all of that.
Well, in wrapping up the discussion, it's important to point out the coinage of the word back way. It means that there should be a front way. Exactly. Migration, like you said, is a fundamental human right, but the back way in crossing the Mediterranean, risking the lives, having boats capsize, it all goes down to point out that Africans should warm up towards acquiring visas to travel. Exactly. For the ECOWAS, were there any mentions of strategic plans on grounds to curb the backway migration?
Oh yes, there are strategic plans, and this is more like a sensitization where the parliament would come to sensitize the people and understand what the problem is. So when they come back to Abuja to make the laws that govern these people, it's not in the wrong. It's not a kind of decision where it doesn't capture the real essence of the people. So one is to tell them, hear the stories, tell them, okay, we shouldn't be doing this, and then we come back and we make decisions that would totally affect them. It's very interesting because when you look at stories across the African region, when the stories come up of irregular migration, there's always an African in between the mix. And I keep wondering why Africans, we find ourselves tangled in this mix. And even there in the Gambia, when we're trying to talk on the morning show, but network wasn't letting us, I saw through the newspaper that even the immigration system, they had lots of people. There's an active trafficking issue. So even the country's immigration system, they're moving to combat that issue. And it seems like an enormous tax because the country is relatively small. And you have a lot of people who are trying to move and find a better life. So at the moment, what the parliament is trying to do is to ensure that you hear firsthand from the people the challenges, what is going on, you sensitize them and let them understand that this is not an option. You should always find the legal pathways to move forward. Come back to Abuja, gather the data, and find a way to make sure that the African region is better. Now, this is not just stopping in the Gambia. By this week, they are in Senegal. So it's not a one-country kind of thing. It's in Senegal. So they're moving now to Senegal to also sensitize the West African region and have that.
Thank you very much, Amo Marcus. Loaded with information, and you can be sure to get more of it on Global Updates at 3 p.m. later today. It's a theme to remember: safer choices, better future, together against irregular migration and traffickings in person, with the Gambia as a case study of how Africa can curb the illicit transit through the Sahara Desert to the Mediterranean with the hope of crossing into Europe. Well, on that note, we're looking to welcome our next guest who will be reviewing some of the prominent headlines in the papers this morning. We're now being joined by Patriot Desmond Olariwaju Fowobi. Good morning to you, Patriot. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Bito Brian. I can hear you clear and loud. And also good morning to your colleague in the studio, Chijoke.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Chijoke is picking up in a bit. But before we get to Chijoke, it's one of the stories that warmed the hearts of Nigerians all through the weekend, following Friday's revelation that the military was successful in rescuing the Orire abductees after having spent 56 days in captivity. 44 of them, barring the teacher who was slain, have now been brought out of the old Oyo National Park, but at a cost of a casualty. Lieutenant Felix Adema Isaac, a 28-year-old military leader who was part of the first initial breach, lost his life and now has been laid to rest. What do you make of this, would I call it a historic rescue mission or an operation in Nigeria's onslaught against kidnapping and abductions?
Victor Brian, I want to first of all congratulate the families of the abductees whilst they were reunited to the family over the weekend. And also, I want to praise and sincerely give out my appreciation to the federal government through its armed forces, especially the coordinated operations headed by the Office of the Security Advisor to the President, No Ibadu, and also the support and collaboration from the state government, Sheyi Makinde. I want to sincerely appreciate our gallant men, our soldiers, the Air Force, the naval officer, and every other concerns, military or paramilitary, that were involved in the joint operation. I will lay my background by appreciating the president and the rest of the people for this successful operation of our kidnapped peoples in Orire since May 15. And it brought the agony, anxiety to an end on the 10th of July, while we lost a gallant officer. And that shouldn't be in the first instance. It's so unfortunate and it is so pathetic. May heaven rest his soul. But the truth must be told with the ways in which the operation
We do apologize for the quality in connection there. There seems to be a lull in our connection between our studio and Patriot Desmond's residence. Once we have him back, he will join us to complete his thoughts. Patriot Desmond, if you're back now, there seems to be quite a lag in our network connection with you. Could you take that point again before we move on to our next item on the discussion this morning?
So to summarize my point, I appreciated everyone, especially our security operatives, the president, the governor, and everyone. But then I have my concern. My concern is that if you study the manner and ways in which this operation turns out, you will understand with me that local communities have hands in the unsuccessful operations that we've had in the northern part of the country, and how this insecurity has lingered for so long. I think it's about time that some people must be punished, especially the communities, the leadership of the communities, the traditional institution in some of these communities, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, where insecurity has thrived for many years.
That's another matter. We have a few minutes to discuss a lot of items on the list, so we will have you react to them quite briefly. The federal government, we hear, has approved a sudden sharp hike in the fees for WAEC and NACO in the country, up to 50,000 naira. Now, the former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has reacted to this, warning that this move might prize more out-of-school children. What do you have to say about the price hike, and do you think this is timely in the sense that the education sector itself has had its own fair set of challenges in recent times?
I wouldn't want the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to be described as a robbing Peter to pay Paul. While we've made so much progress in the economic progression, economic reforms, and we can say investment in infrastructure, I wouldn't want the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to be insensitive to the plight of the people. In this era and time, one of the craziest things anyone can do is to increase tuition fee, school fees, WAEC fee, JAM fee, or anything that has to do with educational fees. We are already promoting and advocating for free education in our primary and secondary school, including the fees of WAEC. That is what we're advocating for. We don't even want them to pay a kobo, a dime. The savings we are making, the profit that is accrued to the country from the excess crude and money making from the increase in petrol should be channeled into free education, especially for primary people and the secondary education, including their WAECs and their work.
Petra Desmond, it's quite an irony. It's quite an irony that you have time and time again defended certain policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like the removal of fuel subsidy, which you have stated has put more monies in the coffers of state governments in Nigeria, and quite rightly so. Now, if state governments are receiving more funds and more money and allocations from FAC due to the removal of fuel subsidy, our currency has now stabilized due to the flotation of the naira and whatnot, why are these monies not being channeled towards ensuring that education or educational fees are lowered rather than increasing or hiking them up in this sense or in this nature?
Okay, sometimes maybe last year or 2 years on this on your program, I've once defended this government in terms of the removal of subsidies, and that has created opportunity for us to have more money. The point is this, without rhetorics or repeating myself, the truth is this: education should be completely free. Since we can't pay subsidy on petroleum, since we have floated the naira, and we have been able to make some profit from our privatization of so many sectors of the economy, one of the best things to do, because if you look at the statistic in our education, you find out that more people needs to be encouraged, motivated, and more families needs to be supported for our children to be in school. The data are not friendly. A lot of people today are not in school, despite the NEL fund that is supposed to fund university education for those who may not have the capacity to pay. What about the primary and the secondary education, which is the bedrock, the foundation of education in the country? The government does not have any justification so whatsoever. That's why I'm not debating it. One thing I want to advise the federal government, I don't know who is in charge of the increment in the fee, but that person is just making caricature of this government. And that should be reversed immediately and should not see the light of the day.
Now, Petro Desmond, let's look at the number of key statistics that have worried a lot of Nigerians over the course of these discussions. Because certain reforms within the education system have sparked outrage from Nigerians. First, it was the mandatory age limit of 18 years for those who would be required to sit for either WAEC or NECO and even JAM that sparked this outrage. Now, it was currently also reported that the current fee for registering for WAEC or NECO is 27,500 naira. What this means is that we're witnessing an 82% increase to bring it to the sum of 50,000 naira per candidate. Now, when we look at the statistics for out-of-school children in Nigeria, we're told that Nigeria has the highest in the world, ranging between 15 to 20 million out-of-school children. At this point, can we have progressive planning to tackle these statistics that are worrying, other than making certain excuses like we're moving WAEC and NECO from being handwritten to computer-based test examinations, much like JAM?
Thank you so much. You see, the argument or the discussion is centered around the same thing: sensitivity and responsibility by the government. The government must understand the reality. What is our minimum wage? We have a minimum wage of 70,000, and you're increasing your tuition or WAEC fee to 50,000, above 85% of the minimum wage. So that means there is no room for survival for the Nigerian people, I mean the workforce. If we go with statistics, the best thing that the government needs to do right now is to pump more money into the education sector to save the future of this country. I don't know the reason for the increment, whether JAMB, whether CCP, computer-based test or everything. That is not any point or justification for the increment. But the truth is this: beyond even providing free WAEC, free JAM, free NECO for Nigerian students, the government must invest more in our education, especially for the foundation. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not be described as trying to be too smart on the citizenry. Paying Peter, robbing Peter to pay Paul. That is not how you develop a country. We must be sincere and systematic in our rescue mission of the education sector. There is a decay already in our education sector that needs to be recovered, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to do everything within its power to ensure that it will restore the old-time glory to our education sector.
Petro Desmond, let's address the over 20 million out-of-school children currently in Nigeria. We don't get to hear much about the government's moves or policies towards ensuring that these children are taken off the streets. During the administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, we saw the Almajiri School Children Initiative come into play. But recently in the news, we also saw that this same, commission has decided to take up certain projects that are out of its jurisdiction, like construction of roads and the rest, which is absolutely out of line with what the commission was initially created for. How do we address this matter head on, beyond just increasing and hiking up fees, educational fees and whatnot? What are we doing, or what is the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu doing about the 20 million out-of-school children roaming the streets in Nigeria?
You see, the issue of insecurity and other inflationary issues that has graced or affected our economy since Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, assumed office on the May 29th, 2020.
Well, it may seem that Petro Desmond Olaro Ajifobi's network there needs some reconnection. But while we look to re-establish that connection with him, it's about the over 20 million out-of-school children and the need for proactive steps to be taken by the Federal Ministry of Education alongside relevant stakeholders in the current administration to ensure that these children are either returned to formal education or given vocational skills for them to be able to thrive. Well, we hear that Petro Desmond Olaro Ajifobi is back on the line.
Now, even before he responds, my concern, which I was going to phrase in my next question to him, is because this approval did not just come in overnight.
Yeah.
There were meetings at the Ministry of Education on the 31st of March. The circular emanated on the 18th of June, signed by Adbn Ibrahim, a senior director of secondary education at the Ministry of Education. And it gives the sense that this went through rigorous deliberations on what they are saying is a policy harmonization so that there are no price differences between either WAEC or NECO in terms of how people perceive the exams as one being superior to the other. But nonetheless, the examination bodies are also citing a hike in the cost of carrying out these exams. So not to invalidate their concerns against that of the parents who are bemoaning having to pay 50,000 naira per ward who is intending to sit these exams, Petro Desmond, is there a genuine case for some hike, if not 82% in this stead, to be considered for the exam bodies as well? Petro Desmond, are you with us now?
I am with you.
Please carry on. Carry on, please.
It seems you're not getting something. My own opinion and my point is that whatever increment and whatever justification for that increment would be, is not my business. Our business, because of the layers of the problems declared in our education sector, especially with over 20 million out of children, should be how we should subsidize. Government should take responsibility for the payment of WAEC, NECO. That is the only hope or justification for the increment in the floating of our naira and the removal of subsidy. With the current reality with our minimum wage, the best thing the government can do, yes, you can increase the money, because if you want to argue WAEC is West African thing. It's not a Nigerian thing. Just like we talk about fuel, petroleum crude price across the globe, standardization of price. That may be their argument. But the point is this. Government should take the responsibility of paying, because the their parents don't have the capacity. And from all logic, the minimum wage the government is paying to the workers is not even enough to solve that problem. So where does the government want the parents of these people to cough that money out from? If not from criminality and all that, prostitution, criminality, and some burglary.
Now, are you of the opinion that this could further, exacerbate the already difficult, nature of living that some Nigerians are currently faced with, the hardship that they're battling with? As little as this might seem, do you think that it could have a ripple effect and bigger and deeper consequences in the future?
That's a lot of huge consequences. First, we are still dealing with millions of out of school and not even enroll their children in any formal education. Beyond that, the hardship that is currently witnessed by the Nigerian workforce as a result of the minimum wage, this will further affect the cost of living and expose our people to more danger. And at this point, we don't need anything to add to the suffering of the Nigerian populace. What we should be thinking, government needs to be deliberate in their policies and must be consistent with the reality. The reality is the minimum wage. So whatever you want to do as a government, before any increment, you first of all need to debate the increment in the minimum wage. That is when justification you can make some justification to the increment. That is my point.
All right, Petra Desmond, let's still move on to yet another matter in the news this morning. We hear that the Nigeria police is set to arraign Prince Matthew Adeyemi, the alleged DG of the fake agency that was found out recently. That the arraignment is set to take place tomorrow, Tuesday, the 14th day of July 2026. What do you think the outcome of all of this investigation would be in the end? Are we going to fish out eventually the individuals who are responsible for this menace in our system as a country?
I am more interested in the process than the outcome. I'm more interested in the process of the inquiry, of the arraignments, and everyone involved in the shenanigans, because this, a lot of people have called it national embarrassment. Quite a lot of us has anticipated the arraignment of Adeyemi, and we have been waiting patiently because we are more interested in everything. We don't want games. We don't want games. You know, a whole lot of times, inquiries, arraignments has met with a whole lot of games and a whole lot of child's play and, you know, some politics and some funny thing. But this particular matter is a matter of particular concern to the survival of our institution as a country. And this is a disgrace that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to watch its hand off. So if we must achieve results, the process must be transparent, accountable, and should be televised for every Nigerian to see and to know the truth about these shenanigans and scenarios.
Now, Petra Desmond, whilst he would have his day in court tomorrow, Tuesday, it's also on the number of charges and the counts, 8 counts bordering on identity theft. It's one of those issues where we look back at the existing laws that help mitigate this, because it's not a 1-year thing, it's not a 2-year thing. It has been on since the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came up, and we had appointments coming in from the presidency and the office of the secretary to the government of the federation. Usually, these issues would have been scrutinized were there employment issues under the National Directorate of Employment. However, since there are political appointments, most times some agencies who are mandated with scrutinizing them kind of are very, would I call it, skeptical about how to go about clamping down on concerned verifications, particularly when these individuals parade themselves around high-ranking individuals in the likes of an anti-graft boss, a deputy speaker of the House of Representatives, holding meetings and also having offices at the Federal Secretariat. It is indeed quite concerning. And not to judge Adeyemi, but asking the question on being able to verify and ensure agencies mandated with fact-checking these things do their bidding. What would be your recommendations?
First, before I talk about my recommendation, I would like you to understand that there are a lot of people that have hand in this matter. This is not a case of Adeyemi alone. We have quite a number of people that are involved, that are accomplices to the successful operation in the last 3 years of the establishment or the appointment handed over to Adeyemi. You see, you cannot pull such stunts in our Nigeria today without strong backup from, I don't know, whether from the presidency or from any quarter or from any quarters. But the truth is this: government needs to be transparent with the process, the investigation, and every name. You know, some names have been mentioned from the presidency and all that. Everybody needs to be made available to provide all necessary information that could lead to the purification of our system and punishment of every offenders, and that will serve as a deterrent. It is only Adeyemi that we have seen today. There are thousands of more of ghost agencies, ghost appointments, and all that. And another matter that is of worry to me is the fact that same Adeyemi claims that he had about 300 employees with directors from the office of the head of service. Now, the question is, didn't this government confirm to the Nigerian people some years back that there is an embargo on employment? And when that embargo was lifted secretly, why was there no publication for Nigerians to enroll? So there is a whole lot of things that is going on in our system that must be corrected. In as much as the government encouraged some of this backdoor employment, backdoor arrangements above what has been institutionalized as a law, we will continue to have a whole lot of some of these kind of issues.
Now, Pedro Desmond, it is also important to look at the side of the government, who are also claiming that Adeyemi forged some of the letters he's referring to as his appointment letters, and his setup at the Federal Secretariat was indeed illegal. Yes, please.
You can't be talking about, do you know that the Office of the National Treasury is responsible for the printing of all very important documents?
That's where I was headed. That's where I was headed.
There is a code. There is a code. You cannot successfully tell us that
it is authenticated. There are seals on it. That's where I was headed. But in the instance, I was going to take you to Chief Bayo Onanuga's statement, which he posted on his X handle. I don't know if you've taken a read on his X handle, what Mr. Bayo Onanuga said in response to this matter.
Bito, anybody can say whatever they want to say, but what I know, I'm a Nigerian, I run organizations, and I know how these things work. See, you cannot tell me that you are using a fake document or a forged document to interact in a present-day Nigeria with high-profile organizations, and you will tell me that there was no signal from Adbn. Because when a document is forged and a document is original, the differences are always very glaring. So those who even condescend to being fooled by a forged document should be punished. In this case, that is my opinion.
Well, quite interestingly, you mentioned that you are more interested in the investigation than the outcome, you know, at the very end. And they have been... They have been... the end. That's correct. Before you carry on, Pedro Desmond, there have been several conflicting reports about the position of Mr. President on this matter. Some reports say that the president has stated that there is absolutely nothing to probe and that he is very confident in his chief of staff. He knows the person he appointed, and he knows that this person can have absolutely nothing to do with the shenanigans of the Adeyemi Phantom Council. And then on the other hand, we are seeing that the same Adeyemi is about to be arraigned come tomorrow. What exactly is the position of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on this matter? Because it's a very serious issue, especially owing to the fact that our budgetary allocation for 2026 has been tampered with, as you know, via the means of the revelations that we've gotten from this Phantom Council.
If you understand how the federal government operation works and directive works, I am not even interested in mentioning the office of the chief of staff of the president. I'm not interested, because if you look at ideally how things works, the office that is in charge of some of this correspondence and all that is the office of the secretary to the government of the federation, and nobody is mentioning that office. You see, when you talk about appointments from the president is handed to any individual through the office of the secretary to the government of the federation. All verifications, all letters to agencies is en route through that office. And For me, I am not even talking about Gbajabiamila. I'm not even referring to him. But what I'm saying is this. The president should be neutral. Besides, I do not even expect Mr. President to make remarks about defending the person he appointed. Even Wike, I saw Wike trying to talk about Femi Gbajabiamila. Why are you pointing at Femi Gbajabiamila? There is more to this issue, more than even Femi Gbajabiamila. So government should be neutral, because sometimes the statement of the executive matters a lot to shaping the process of a particular inquiries. You've heard and you understand body language. The body language of Mr. President can make or mar the process. So what I'm saying at this point is that the Mr. President and the presidency should stay clear of this and allow the judiciary, allow every member of the inquiry panel to do justice. If possible, the government can try as much as possible to transcript or display this on the national television, so that a whole lot of Nigerians that are interested in the process will see that truly there is no script that is being played to the Nigerian people. That's what I'm saying. I'm more interested in the process than the outcome, because the process is just
Petra Desmond, this saga involving the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council is one that is allegedly indicting several persons across different quarters. The National Assembly is being mentioned because a line in the 2026 budget to the tune of 1.3 billion naira was allocated to the PFIPC. Now, the Senate, speaking through its spokesperson, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, stated things I would like your reaction to. First, he says that line of 1.3 billion naira was not created by the National Assembly, that it came directly from the executive arm of government. He also followed that up by saying that the Senate would not be investigating the matter, as it has not received a formal petition and the matter is sub judice in that regard. But what do you make of this response, and should the National Assembly be petitioned to wade into the matter?
Certainly. You see, the kind of government that we run is that one particular arm depends on the other, for things to work. For example, former Minister of Youth and Sports, Dalong from Plateau State, if you check his handle, he tweeted something about the corruption that has been deviling our systems. And you find it in almost arm of the government, even the legislator that is supposed to be a check to the executive. You see, we've heard about chairman of committee, of that committee, of this committee, so that when there is appropriation, it has to go through a process of budget defense. And this defense means that you must interface with the person in charge or individuals representing that agency or commission to defend every letter of the appropriation. So in this case of Adeyemi, who are the assembly members that interrogated Adeyemi? Because Adeyemi too is making strong statements. He has released some videos that we have seen, and I can verify that they are not AI generated. He has communicated even on channels, and he's sounding very confident. He's confident. Is it? If you see a man that is, wrong, that is wrong of something, his body language is usually very different. But in this case of Adeyemi, he's so confident, and he said that Ed will roll. In this case, he's confident that what he's waiting for is for the government to arraign him. And I'm happy today when the news broke out that on Tuesday, the arraignment process will begin. That is what we are waiting for. Let's not say much. This case is in court. And at the end of the day, what we are all saying or asking the federal government is that the process must be void of any intimidation, persuasion, lobby, or any kind of a body language that will affect the transparency of the inquiry.
Well, much remains to be seen in due course. What will unravel as the court proceedings continue to hold. And we'll also get to see the charges that the federal government will be leveling against Adbn come tomorrow. Well, Pedro Desmond, we still have one more item on the list this morning. We hear that foreign debt servicing has skyrocketed and gulped up about $1 billion in just 2 months in the country. Now, I understand that your background is more political than economical, but you, as a defender of a lot of policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I would like you to react to this. A lot of analysts or economists will tell you that borrowing is not bad and that it is, in fact, good for the stability of our economy. But $1 billion in debt servicing in 2 months, isn't that a little too much?
Sometimes I like to avoid involving my voice on this kind of matter because it beats sometimes logic. And maybe because I'm not an economist. I understand that borrowing is not that bad, but this case is not a case of whether borrowing is good or bad, but the case of what is it that the government is presenting to the public that sometimes turns out not to be sincerely true or the obvious truth. I know that this government is making more money and this government is committed to projects. But what I think the government should do is to balance the whole discussion. Borrowing is not bad, but not trying to sweet-mouth the people or deceive. Let me use the right. Don't deceive the people about borrowing. Yes, we are making money, but the money we are making is less compared to what is being expended. There is a whole lot of projects going on. So we can tag the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the highest borrower since 1999. This government is making more money, but this government is also committed to borrowing money. Is the borrowing justified? Yes. But what I think is drawing attention of the people is not about the debt service. When you borrow a whole lot of money, there will be increase in what you use in servicing the debt. So this exposes that the government is more committed in borrowing money. And it's not because it's not justified, but the body language and some of the defender of this government should tell the Nigerian people the truth. Yes, we are making money, but what we are making is not enough as regarding the amount of constructions and projects that is going on. And another thing I want to beg this government, because government will come and go. While we are committed to a whole lot of projects, we must be careful to prioritize only projects of utmost importance to the people, not just because of the gains, immediate gains that some people in government wants to make as they are in position of influence today.
And Pedro Desmond, away from this is also doing things according to the law. The law mandating the prudent management and long-term macroeconomic stability of a nation, particularly for us, Nigeria, is hinged on provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007. And just about a month ago, civil society organizations wrote an open letter to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu warning that a debt trap owing to the huge burden facing the country is already here. They recommended that the government complies with provisions of Section 40 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007 by putting a ceiling on borrowing and also ensuring that the moratorium and use of resources borrowed are well documented and accounted for. However, the government is yet to comply with this recommendation of civil society organizations. What more can be done to remind the government of the provisions of the law as it concerns prudent management of resources?
Yes, we speak more. We request and demand for accountability. You know, every government wants to shy away from this kind of conversation. But the Nigerian society, civil society, and the people must remain adamant. We speak about it, we talk about it, and we mount more pressure on the government to do the right thing. Every government always wants to hide on their immunity and on some of their justifications with the projects that they are doing. or they embarked on, that we are doing this, we are this and that. But then the truth must be told. The government that is not accountable to the people, no matter the good intention they have, is as good as bad government. Accountability, transparency is one of the hallmark of every successful indicators of the good governance treaty. So for me, we will continue to speak up, because if you leave it alone to the government, they will always want to hide some of this information from the public, and we should not allow that. As people, we need to speak more and demand that government needs to do the right thing always.
I've seen SERAP doing the same thing. SERAP comes out time and time again, calls out the government on certain policies, calls out agencies of government, over some extra spendings that are not supposed to have happened. We are not new to Nigerians crying foul about certain things that happen in government. However, is the government ready to listen to the cries and pleas of Nigerians? Because at the end of the day, you can only sue. And when you sue, the judiciary is still part of the government. And with the trust, the degradation that has happened to the trust that Nigerians have in our judiciary, it's almost as if you take the federal government or any state government at all to court, you will just be wasting your time and resources. How do you react to this, Petro Desmond?
Very right, Chijoke Okafor. You see, let me tell you something. One thing is to do a thing. Another thing is to do a thing right. Yes, you may want to mention Sarah. How many more names do you have on in your covers to mention of society defending transparency and accountability? One thing I know for sure is that the people of Nigeria are not involved. The Nigerian people are being carried away by other activities of government. What they should pay attention to, this community, this Nigerian society, is not paying attention to them. I can tell you, a whole lot of people are not even interested in the numbers. A whole lot of people don't monitor the numbers. A whole lot of people don't even ask the right question. Institutions that have opportunity to meet President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, individuals that have opportunity of speaking to the government directly and have the ears of the government. What discussion? Ali Ndume was with the president over the weekend. And when he came out from the interview, he was speaking politics. He was political about his interviews. These are some of the problems. Are the Nigerian people asking the right question? The answer is no. So you cannot just rely on syrup. A whole nation cannot put all its hope or its eggs in one basket, leaving the bulk of the work on maybe code, syrup, Nigeria, and all that. The Nigerian people are supposed to be asking the right question and not doing so. So what do you expect? The government of the Nigerian people are far too comfortable, and that is why you see they are having these rights.
And the worrying statistics here is not just based on foreign borrowing alone. It's the fact that the debt management office has also revealed that this government is prioritizing local borrowing from investors. And this tendency is also crippling the availability of capital for the SMEs sector. Our second angle, as we'll discuss this, is on the treasury bills, the T-bills. The Debt Management Office has revealed that the federal government borrowed 7.6 trillion naira in treasury bills and bonds within a 6-month period. Are there any dangers in doing so, or if we would shore up the deficit in the 2026 budget at all means, then the government is free to do as it wishes?
Yeah, certainly. The truth is this. The truth is this. Like we all agreed, it's about being accountable. And if started borrowing is normal or is okay, there are some borrowing that are not justified. But the truth is, so far so good. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on the mantra of renewed hope, has done quite a lot in terms of infrastructure development, building roads and all that. But then, there are so many people who still have questions. We are making a whole lot. For me, if I must be fair to you, I can tell you today that the system is not transparent enough. And that is what is leaving people to be worried about the tone of the figures that this government is doing. This government will be in record or will be prominent and known as one of the government of the country that is borrowing so much, either from investors, local borrowing, or from international borrowing. But one thing that the Nigerian people should do, because we have a future to defend, we must ask this government to do the right thing and mount pressure to be accountable to the people.
Now, Peter Desmond, whilst we also discuss the borrowing, it's important to prefer solutions in the course of our discussion. And this will bring my reference to an earlier headline on the Guardian newspaper. It's based on our e-waste management. We hear that there is available resources and incomes to the tune of $89 million if we have proper frameworks to harness this sector. But it's basically been left to what we call hustlers and babambola. For those who live in the FCT, they are very familiar with this coinage. Let's revisit the front page of the Guardian newspaper whilst we get your thoughts on this, because it also gives us a graphical representation of where this $89 billion income can be sourced from. The Guardian newspaper earlier has this headline: Nigeria leaves e-waste recycling to hustlers, misses out on $89 billion income. You'd find the economic opportunity gap, 1.1 million tons, the massive volume of electronic waste Nigeria generates every single year, $4.5 billion annual losses, estimated revenue Nigeria misses by failing to formalize its e-waste recycling market. Then you have over 100,000 shadow workers. These are the babambola, which I had earlier referred to. And on the right side of these infographics is the hazardous metal extraction and its toll on human life. 75% of water contamination by doing this, particularly in Lagos, where most of the groundwater is near e-waste dump sites, which is unfit for human consumption, and the severe health crisis toxic exposures trigger with cancer and respiratory failure, and even permanent DNA damage. I'll come back to you, Patriot Desmond, and it starts from even our disposals. Surprisingly, when I was in South Africa, I noticed that most of the receptacles are divided into two. You have non-recyclable and recyclable waste. Just in a minute or two, can you tell us why we fail to have frameworks within this largely informal sector to tap into the available income?
First of all, I can tell you from what I know as a Nigerian that the Nigerian government has bulk of problems in its covers, and governance has not even reached 50% of some of the realities of the Nigerian day-to-day business. Government is yet to start providing governance to so many aspects of our economy. It's not just the waste, but just because of the hazards that it poses to the people and some implication, the health implication. Yes, you are mentioning 100,000 ghost workers. There are millions of the Nigerian people of every ethnic extraction that are involved in recycling. Some, for many years, that has been their source of livelihood. Yes, we need to be very careful. You know, one thing that I can just say about this matter is that there are so many sectors of our economy that the government has left, that has not provided governance to. We talk about marine economy. Do you know a lot of people that are doing business with, on, or around our marine? And that has been their source of livelihood and has been left unregulated for years, even till now. And waste, you just mentioned waste. A whole lot of people, a lot of business. See, the government at this stage of our development is still focusing on some institutional foundation. We are still at the foundation level. We've not started governance in the real time. I'm coming to you.
And Petra Desmond, in just 2 seconds, please.
We've not started governance in the real sense. If you look at what is called governance, what we're having right now in Nigeria is very fair. We are still struggling with establishing our existence and laying a foundation. When governance come to effect, it will touch on so many aspects. Abambola and so many other.
And let's hope that is very soon. Thank you so much, Petra Desmond Olaro Ajifobi, President of the Nigerian Nexus, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we hope to have our next guest here in the studio to speak to more.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned to Morning Express. Is back to discussions making the rounds and focus on the build-up to 2027 general election with the INEC guideline and timetables. How well are political parties keeping with the initial issued deadlines? Now remember that INEC had given the access codes to their portal to political parties to upload the list of successful candidates from the primaries. Now, initially, it ought to have been concluded on the 11th of July, but INEC has had to extend that deadline to midnight on the 14th of July, 2026. The Inter-Advisory Party Council also had to appeal to INEC for this extension, but has also been immersed with some substitution rumors that some political parties have substituted the names of successful candidates who had emerged after the conduct of the party primaries with those who particularly are in the National Assembly and looking for a return ticket to either the upper or the lower chambers. Well, joining us on the program this morning is a colleague of ours, a journalist, Bode Badebo, who is live in our studios. Mr. Bode Badebo, good morning to you and welcome to the studio.
Nice to be on the show. Good morning.
Good morning. It's wonderful to have you here, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Well, Albeit O'Brien has laid a background to the discussion this morning and post the primary elections that we've seen in all across political parties in the country. Like he mentioned, there have been a lot of speculations that there's also been a lot of name shuffling in the background. Is this true? Do you think that there is an iota of truth to, the fact that there might have been some reshuffling of names? And why do you think it took so long for political parties to start uploading the list of candidates on the INEC portal?
Well, my memory serves me right. The ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, actually openly has told its members that it reserved the right to eventually
shuffle.
Yes, pick who becomes candidates at the poll, irrespective of the outcome of the primary election. So if a party official, a top party official can announce that, that was a confirmation that primary or no primary, the party leadership reserve the right in their own thinking, not according to the law, to choose whoever they feel will be the flag bearer of their party. Now, shortly after that, INEC, as the electoral umpire, as a regulator as well, also came out to say, no, we cannot take any result other than the outcome of the primary exercise, which that itself was a good development for democracy. Now that party have been given the access code, and now that there is extension, well, we can only keep our fingers crossed and see will they actually walk their talk, I mean INEC, to ensure that there is fairness, or it will allow the political parties to do whatever they like. And if that happens, I think it will be incumbent on INEC to actually stamp its feet on the floor and say, we are the regulator.
But is INEC really stamping its feet on the floor? Because on one hand, you said INEC is standing its ground and saying that the results that will be announced should only be the result of what INEC had observed during the primary elections.
Yes.
Don't you think that this extension of deadline after extension of deadline is in some subtle way, given the things they want to carry out behind the scene?
Well, I don't see it that way. No matter the time taken, the records remain. We have the records. INEC have the record. The records in the public domain as well.
Okay. I was going to ask that.
Yes. So this is where I want INEC to actually answer its name in the true sense of the name. Independent National Electoral Commission. If eventually any political party, no matter the size, popularity, is actually called to be engaging in any underhand dealing about party nomination, I think such parties should stand disqualified.
Now, Mr. Bode, let's also talk about the reason for the extension as communicated by the INEC through its Commissioner Mohammed Kudu Haruna, who said it was owing to some technical difficulties with the upload of the list of candidates to their portal. We're not yet at the elections, and if for a simple upload of successful candidates, we're not hearing these common phrase technical difficulties, should Nigerians be concerned?
Well, nothing to be worried about. You cannot wish that away. No, it's technology. Even human being will break down, let alone technology. And we're talking about 17 to 18 political parties, whether serious or not serious. All of them will be uploading all manners of people as candidates. So look at the
time frame?
The number of people.
The volume.
The volume to be involved. So it's normal.
Now, you talked about the APC earlier, and permit me to use them as a case study. The national chairman, Professor Nantewe Yilwada, came out openly to also appeal to those who contested, saying that they should not resort to litigations, whatever they find as the party's decision in fielding the final list of candidates. But we know on record that the APC currently has over 700 appeals following the conduct of its party primary. I have not come to the ADC and the others, even the PDP faction, who are also now battling over who uploads the names. What do we make of the internal democracy at a party level if that in itself is still flawed by influences or unfairness in some sense?
Well, it's actually an indication that we don't have internal democracy in our party politics. What we have is the rule of the few. And those few are the mighty ones who want to dictate who are candidates or who are eventual winners. And unfortunately, they want to dictate for political parties that this should be your candidate. Then after, they want to dictate for majority of Nigerians at the end of the general election who should be the eventual winner of election. So it's a double jeopardy.
Yeah.
For the parties, they are losing out on the democracy front. Nigerians
in general are disenfranchised.
Are also losing out. It's quite unfortunate. So it's a minus for Nigerian democracy.
He mentioned something about the People's Democratic Party. Report here on the First Daily says that a Wiki-led PDP faction has uploaded its candidates to the INEC portal. Sometime last week on Thursday, the FCT minister was holding his usual monthly media chat, and he made a statement regarding fielding a presidential candidate in the 2027 election. Now, he has openly expressed his support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's re-election in 2027 time and time again. Now, when asked about the PDP candidates that he is fielding as a leader of the party, he stated that they had to just do that, for formality, because they needed to participate in the election, and that he knew, or he still knows, that there is absolutely no way anyone, whether in the PDP, the ADC, the NDC, the Labour Party, or whatever political party, will stand any chance against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What does this say about the nature of our democracy and how transparent our electioneering processes are?
Well, it's one contradiction I cannot easily explain myself. You know why it's a kind of a contradiction? Because it's an anomaly. The current government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as we speak, is not a government of national unity. You are aware of that. What the president said, if I can remember vividly, in 2023 was that he was going to form a government of national competence, that we pull people from all angles based on their competence to come and work for him. So
technocrats?
No, not necessarily technocrats. People we believe are okay.
Like we are seeing in the FCT minister, who is the
PDP
he's
a member of another party.
The minister of Foreign Affairs, who is a member of
a government of national unity or a coalition government is a government with different partisan interests. PDP will be participating. ADC will be participating. But now, FCT minister is not participating based on PDP membership, based on PDP ideology.
Well, he's the national leader of the party.
He's participating based on his own personal track record, his relationship with Tinubu, his contribution to Tinubu as Wiki. Are you getting it now? Now, so that's why I call it a contradiction. It's not a government of national unity. So
Tinubu call it a government of national competence. And there are other people who are not even politicians at all, remember. They are serving in this government. Now, the contradiction...
That's why I said technocrats.
Okay, yes, technocrats also. So the contradiction now is this instance where, okay, we are going to the next election cycle and a national leader of a party is saying, well, my party will be participating for formality's sake. It shows the PDP is not interested. We are for this current government to continue.
But in reality, is the PDP strong enough to field a candidate against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu if you put into consideration everything that has panned out within the People's Democratic Party in the last couple of months? In fact, since the last general election.
Okay, you're right. It has actually lost its structures. So, practically speaking, it is not, it does not have a good standing. Again, as we speak today, we don't know tomorrow, to participate in a presidential election. But then you begin to interrogate what led to that. You know, that will be a discussion for another day. So that is that. So it's a contradiction of our own type of democracy.
All right.
And it should be a master class for political science students.
Now, before we go into any other discussions, for the sake of our viewing public, let's also bring to your notice the INEC circular making the rounds as posted on the official INEC handle at INEC Nigeria. It has the topic, extension of deadlines for submission of list of candidates by political parties. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has approved the extension of the deadline for submission of list of candidates for the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections by political parties. The deadline for submission in the revised timetable and schedule of activities for the 2027 general election, being stated Saturday, 11th July 2026, has been extended to midnight of Tuesday, 14th July 2026. The decision to extend was based on an appeal by the Inter-Party Advisory Council on behalf of political parties who were unable to upload the names and personal particulars of their candidates within the scheduled timeline. The extension underscores the Commission's commitment to ensuring inclusivity in its practices while acting within the ambit of the law. The Commission enjoins political parties to take advantage of this window of opportunity and ensure that all necessary details are uploaded before the expiration of the new deadline. This is signed by the National Commissioner and Chair, Information and Voter Education Committee, Mohammed Kudu Haruna, dated 12 July 2026. There you have it there, official confirmation of the extension. So tomorrow by midnight, we'll also be keeping our eyes out in our series of voter education on ADBN television to keep you informed on extensions of even CVR registration as well. Well, coming back to Mr. Bode in the studio, we had talked about one of the joyous stories making the rounds from the weekend, which was the release of the abductees in Orire, the teachers and the pupils, 56 days after captivity. It did come at a cost, but nonetheless, let's get your first reaction to when the news broke late Friday evening.
It was heartwarming. You know, those kids actually suffered a lot. 56 days. The teachers also, and even the traumatized parents at home. So when the news came Friday evening, it was heartwarming.
Now, we also saw the state of the children, and particularly the head teacher who has become quite famous across screens in Nigeria. She was the one at the end of the pointed gun making appeals. She was also the first to thank the president for the role the security agencies played in their swift rescue. We're now hearing background information that the military had to also go tit for tat. They targeted the family of the kidnapper, took his wives and kids, which handicapped them in their bid to use the abducted teachers and pupils as human shield. But they also were able to take out a 28-year-old military personnel. What do you make of this tactical acumen as displayed by our military?
Well, it was an intelligence-led operation, and I think that's what kind of thing we need to actually overcome similar challenges in Borno, Kwara, and I think is it Kogi? So to make sure that all hostages are brought home unhurt. So kudos to the military, or kudos to all the security forces involved in these intelligence-led operations to make sure that we are able to account for the hostages with minimal casualty. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bode Badebo, who has been on the program this morning. It also opens the window for our next discussion, one that centers on security. We have a security expert who will be joining us on the program. Whilst we have commendations for the Orire rescue, tears have once again greeted the streets and communities in Benue following the death of 16 residents. Many have taken to the streets to protest the need for actions to end all sorts of killing in Benue. Stay with us. This will take the airways after the break.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on ADBN TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on ADBN TV for business information, latest happening business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on ADBN TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report bringing you up to speed in the business world.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunity. And Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
You're welcome back to Morning Express. Now we have in the studio with us a security strategist, Dr. Steve Okore, who is a regular here on the program, but hasn't been in the studio with us in a while. A very good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you again.
Yeah, same here.
And congratulations on your new elevations as well.
Thank you.
It's always good to use your expertise in times like this. And we've had two previous guests who were in the studio who were elated about the news following the rescue of the Orire abductees. You in previous statements have questioned the psychosocial support for the released victims. You've also scrutinized the approach used by the army, particularly when we look at 56 days in captivity and the strain it has taken. Let's get your first reactions to that before we come to Benue, where yet again we hear there's been more bloodshed.
Thank you for having me to your new studio. This is my first time here. I want to start by saying that rescue operations are normal in any country that finds ourselves in a situation where we have found ourselves as a country at the moment. And school adoption is not new to us as a country. Chibok adoption, schoolgirls started in 2014, and that was what gave prominence to adoption of school children. And the eyes of these criminal elements now opened in that direction. The very recent one in Oyo. Now, what that means is that we have our history, we have our experiences, and the current realities that is before us as we speak. What lessons have we drawn right from Chibok to date, that government and security agencies have tried to see how to put measures in place, strategies in place to see that these things don't happen. I think that we are not investing well in terms of prevention. So we need and we must invest greater chunk of whatever we are doing in prevention rather than response. Because this crime happened, that is when you begin to see that usual top-to-bottom approach. That is when you begin to hear directives, when the damage is done.
When you talk about prevention, what measures would you advise as a security expert to ensure that our schools are kept safe? Because, of course, the bandits and terrorists that operate and abduct people from schools have absolutely no regard for places like schools, places of worship, or even hospitals. They can abduct from anywhere.
Yes. Now, we have these crimes happen in mostly our rural and semi-rural communities. How many of these adoptions have we had in cities? Right. How many have we had in cities? So it is happening in our rural and semi-rural communities. Now, the question here is that, do we have presence of security personnel in our rural communities where this crime happened? The answer is no. As an advocate of local policing, I have done a lot of paperwork, research work, published paperwork on presence of security in our rural, because there's clear absence of security in our rural and semi-rural communities. So what government is to, and these things are not new, that we don't have presence of security in our rural communities. These criminals come. They come in, whatever they want to do. Look at the Oyo case. They came in on the day of adoption, they killed a teacher and took away these children, teachers, and all that.
And that was to incite fear.
Of course, so that there won't be any follow-up, Now, do we have an effective communication channel? Now, they tell us that responsibility of addressing security issues is shared, where government, security agencies, and civilian population has roles to play. But now, when the civilian population sees something and they want to say something, is there an effective communication channel that they can pass this information as quickly as possible to our law enforcement agent for them to quickly respond? We're talking about rapid response here. This crime happened, these guys come, ferry these children and take them away. Nobody confronts them, right? In as much as I've said all this, I think this current government has tried to understand that there is no presence of security in our rural communities.
Dr. Steve, regarding interagency collaboration, especially in the fight against insecurity in Nigeria, we had a retired Army general here in the studio a couple of weeks ago, and he made a comment in the line of, or along the lines of, the fight against insurgency or terrorism in Nigeria is between the military and a terrorist. That other paramilitary agencies and the Nigeria police are not doing as much as the military has been doing and is still doing towards this fight. What is your perspective on this? And is there some iota of truth in what the retired general had stated?
Yes, I think I want to agree with the general, what he stated, because as a fellow of the Nigerian Army Resource Center, the Army is my primary constituency, and I see the effort that they've been making in the fight against terrorism in the Northeast and other banditry activities in the Northwest. We have security military operations everywhere in Nigeria. And of course, looking at the law books, you agree with me that it is stated that the primary responsibility of the police has to do with combating internal crime. It is not the responsibility of the police, right? Of the army, sorry. Now, when you look at what is happening, you discover that the police are overwhelmed, whether we like it or not. We have 29 security agencies in this country. The very recent one that was established was the Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons. All these 29 security agencies that we have, they all have clear mandates. The reason why they were established, the reason why they were created. If there is no crime in Nigeria, as we are talking in your studio, we won't have these security agencies, in existence. And we won't have Nigerians hired to work in these security agencies because they were hired for a purpose, right? The police mandate is prevention and detection. Now the question is, how well are they preventing? I talked about prevention. We must invest in prevention than response. How well are they preventing? How well are they detecting? You need to use intelligence to be able to identify possibility of threats and all that. So a lot is happening that we are not seeing, and that is not enabling us to see the desired result. These arms that these criminal elements carry, there's a Center for Small Arms and Light Weapons. How many of these weapons have they recovered from the hands of these criminal elements? We have well over 6.5 million arms and small arms and light weapons in circulation in Nigeria as a result of the fall of Gaddafi, right? Whether we like it or not, that is also influencing the insecurity.
Large contribution factor.
Exactly, in Nigeria.
And because of time, I'll come to this concept of rapid response. And earlier in my background, I talked about the recent killings in Benue again.
Yeah.
You look at Plateau, you look at Benue, one thing that is common is the fact that reports suggest that the assailants had ample time to decimate these communities before even being intercepted or having anybody respond to their cries for help. How do we upscale this response time, and is it even possible in terms of the reality on ground?
Now, I've said it here, we don't have security presence. It is when the damage is done. After the damage, the killings of people in Benue, that was when you started seeing the deployment of police. They will tell you that they've deployed tactical and intelligence squad to go and do what? When the perpetrators have long gone, right? No trace to even know how they went or how the route they took and all that. And that is why we must see that we emphasize or talk about having presence of security in our rural communities. Because this crime happens in our rural communities. How well are the local government functioning? The governors of state have strangled local government by not allowing them get the adequate or the required allocation, federal allocation. Right? The governors should allow local government to breathe. These crimes are local. We must see how to begin to address them from the grassroots. Who contributes or play roles in addressing these insecurity issues from the grassroots? Is the local government chairman or the local government chairperson? Right. So governors should allow their funds to get to them so that we can hold each arm. If it's the local that is failing, we can hold the chairman or chairman accountable. If it's the state that is failing, we can hold the state governors accountable. If the federal is failing, we can hold Mr. President accountable. Right. The present government has tried to see how to ensure that there's presence of security presence in our rural communities by establishing the National Forest Guards. And for me, that National Forest Guards under the supervision and coordination of the National Security Advisor is slow in terms of implementation. We haven't seen any effect from the National Forest Guard. The President has also gone ahead to give directives that they should be armed as well because they will serve as first responders. Also, the State Police Bill that has passed all the processes and is still ongoing is a way of addressing these insecurities locally as well because members of the State Security Service will come from the community where they live, where they grew up and all that. They are familiar with their terrain, their environment and all that. So there's a lot that we need to do, but in doing all this, I see a huge gap between policy and implementation and also sustaining the policy. Right. We have a lot of books that have to do with laws and all that. The National Security Strategy, 2019 revised edition. It was a document I criticized during my PhD. Because for me, that document is not working contained in it, yes, very fantastic ideas, strategies to say how to help address issues of insecurity. But are we implementing the content of the national security strategy? The answer is no.
Well, quite interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Steve. It's been a pleasure having you here in the studio
Thank
to
you.
discuss the security margin.
Thank you for
Always a pleasure, but it leaves you yearning for more, and we'll hope to have him back in the studios in due time to also follow up on implementations and sustainability of government interventions in our fight against banditry and insecurity. Well, this is the size of our package this morning. My name is Beto Bryan. Thank you for always choosing to start your day on ADBN television.
Now I am Chijioke Okafor. Thank you so much for watching. At the top of the hour, it will be time for ADBN Sports. Morning, Nigeria.
ADBN, a part of you. Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN, a part of you.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
It all comes down to this. Green flag at the back. It is time to crown a champion. Martinelli! One more stride up Arsenal's stairway to heaven. LeBron! Look out below! Oh my Lord! Oh my Lord! Arena time again. Mbappe, Thuram, Mbappe! Oh wow!
This is more than sport. This is drama. This is passion. From the first whistle to the final second, we bring you closer. Closer to the action. Closer to the moments. Closer to the game. This is where sport lives.